Hi, I'm Donatus, and this is my Web Frameworks CA2 project. I will begin by showing how it works in the browser, and then I'll show you the code. So you begin by logging in with Donatus and password test. In this process, it goes to /login, does its connection to the database, which I use MySQL to check whether the user's details, and it redirects you back to index, and in this process it sets the session attribute of the username of the person that's logging in if the details were correct with the database. Now once it arrives here, it's simple, just shows you the variable and the logout. Logout works perfectly. It just removes the session attribute. And then, because I base my game off a video, I base my idea of a video game called League of Legends and its champions. So you can view one of the champions and view its information by using the get on the above. But if you change one of the variables above, it will change the information below. And that's it. There's a possibility of doing register for this, and also a possibility of a form of adding champions for this, which would improve the use of more functions on this. Now I begin by showing you the servlet. In the servlet, it's a simple. It begins with initialization of servlet context and web context, gets the path, and it does get the class manager. I will begin with showing you the class manager, what happens. So class manager, using the entity interface, which is blank, it uses reflection in order to get all of the classes inside the package that is passed in. So in this case, it's a demo package, and it comes from site properties demo. So it gets the URL, the folder or package name, passes it in, and then this function gets a set of strings, which is the names of the classes, and now, or the path of the classes. Now, with this, we're able to use the strings to create the classes and put them in a hash map. Now why you use hash map is I thought it'll be easier to do an association between the name of the class and the class itself, instead of using it using class just to get the name. So once this happens, it comes back with a hash map of classes. It does some class names, just some shortening, and it checks if you type in nothing in the above URL for the slash afterwards, it will go to index, and then it will create the class, or get the class based on the URL you typed in from the servlet because of the path. And then based on this, it will create the servlet. Now what happens is, say you come to index, it is a servlet. I had to put these to null, because otherwise if you put them to index, it was not displaying it for me. What index does, it's not much at the moment here. It just checks whether the session attributes have been set for the username. That means it's logged in. If it's logged in, then some variables are set and the login status is changed. But what happens when the user clicks the login button? He goes to /login, and in here I've wrote a function, the login, which uses the database. Now database is a database manager, and in database manager is just a simple, again, class that connects to the MySQL. It constructor, and it registers with the SQL passed in. So this information might need to be changed if you're willing to run the project on your machine. And it's a simple select function, which is basically a select SQL query that I use. And in this function, it basically does a check with the database to see if it's correct information or not. And then because I used do post, I used the post instead of get for the login. So this is the connection of it, and then it gets the parameters. So it's in a plain form at the moment, and because the database I hard coded it with an MD5 encryption, I have to encrypt the password that is being passed in as a string right now, as a plain text string, and encrypt it and do a comparison that way. So if I had the register built in, the register would encrypt their password into MD5, and then the login would do a comparison the same way. So this is just a function called above, and it checks whether it's logged in. If it's logged in, then the set attribute is set to username. It's been initialized, and it redirects back to index. What happens in logout? Logout, not much happens apart from in the post section. Attributes is removed and it's been redirected back to index. Now, once you're logged in, you get to view. What happens in view is just checks whether you're logged in or not, and sets these champion type, name, and difficulty based off the get request parameters at the top, and just displays the information from the template. Now, view is just a simple request login template, and index has a bit more in order to display these champions, and a fancy looking big URL in order to get it to display it at the top, and a couple of checks to see whether the user is logged in or not, to display certain parts of the website for them. That's that for that. Champion classes just has name, difficulty, and type for each champion, and champion store holds champions. I hard-coded in these champions to make it easier, and I could have put these champions into the database, but that's a thing that could be done. I then I did some tests for champion and champion store. They worked out okay. I tried to do tests for frameworks. These tests do pass, but it has to be, your main website has to be running in order to pass these tests. This test, I don't know why it's not passing, but it should work correctly. And that's pretty much it.